Dr. Ellis, really appreciate you joining us today. And I know I'm listed as a host here, but I'm really playing sub-host. Our guest host will be taking the stage. I'd like to give a brief biography of Dr. Ellis. Dr. Amy Ellis is the superintendent of Bridgeport Independent School District in Bridgeport, Texas. She has 17 years of experience in public education as a former high school Spanish teacher, assistant principal, principal, executive director, and chief curriculum instruction officer. So she's basically almost done it all. She earned her Bachelor of Arts in Spanish and Speech Communications from the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, her Master of Science in Education Administration from Texas A&M University, and her Doctor of Education in Education Administration from Texas A&M University as well. We connected with her at the ASCD conference last fall, where we were blessed to see a version of this presentation. We had to ask her to come and share it with you guys today. We're really looking forward to having Dr. Ellis as our guest presenter and hope you get some great information for your district's performance strategies. Go ahead, Dr. Ellis. There we go. Our main focus today will be to explore 6 practical plays or strategies from a performance playbook, much like a coach using a playbook with a team from pretty much any sport of your choice. As a superintendent, it can help mold and shape, you can help mold and shape the plays and expectations to shift performance within your district. And as such, we have 3 objectives for today's webinar. One, we'll provide some context on identifying the need for a performance playbook and then answer the question, what key indicators has Dr. Ellis experienced to let her know changes were necessary? Objective 2, Dr. Ellis will introduce the playbook as a curriculum development system. And then objective 3, Dr. Ellis will explore examples and practical applications of the 6 plays from her performance playbook. All right, Dr. Ellis, take it away.
Woohoo! Well, I'm super excited. Amazing opportunity to just share some playbooks in creating systems for high performing schools. And so our layout or the school public school system looks very different in 2024 than it even did 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm super excited to share with you some of the systems that we have implemented. But first, I want to give you just a little bit of history of where we're at and how we kind of came up with the playbook for performance. So Bridgeport ISD is a 4A district northwest of Fort Worth. We have about 2,100 students. Our high school has 656 students, 44% white, 51% Hispanic, 62% economically disadvantaged. And I've been the superintendent in Bridgeport for 2 years. Our campuses are relatively small. So our elementary has 526 students. Our elementary is pre-K through 2. Our intermediate is grades 3, 4, and 5, and then traditional middle school and traditional high school. When I was hired in 2021, I came into a district knowing that they were losing student enrollment, like much of us have over the last few years. So when I got hired in 2021, 4 out of the last 5 years, they had been declining in enrollment. Looking at their accountability scores, I knew going in that there were some low-hanging fruit in Bridgeport ISD because we had traditionally not been a high-performing district. So I knew coming out of COVID that there were obviously some academic indicators that needed some areas of growth. One of the major things that we have talked about with our staff, we have about 350 staff members in Bridgeport ISD. One of the things that we share with them when we have a professional development day in October, in January, in February, in our beginning and end of year convocation, I share this slide with all of our staff members. And if any of you have a degree in business, you've heard of the lean management strategy. And in lean management, there are 2 major tenets. And those tenets are respect for people and continuous improvement. And when I ask our staff, I say, hey, but which one of these tenets is we want to place more of an emphasis on? Which one of these tenets is larger in this visual? And they say, well, respect for people. And we say, you're absolutely correct that while we want to get better, while we know that we're a C-rated district at the moment and have the potential to become an A-rated district, we want you to get better. We want everyone in our system to grow each year, but we want to do that with respect for people and implement change and implement systems that are feasible, that are doable, and with support for our staff members. So the entire purpose of the lean management strategy is to add value to any system or organization that you have, with the ultimate goal of eliminating waste, eliminating any type of waste that exists in the organization. So today, you might hear me say a couple of times, this is what we do with respect for people. And so when you hear me say that, I wanted you to understand where that came from. So let's talk about what systems we have put in place in Bridgeport ISD. I'm going to talk about two halves, as I might say, of the playbook. The first 4 plays in our playbook are the work. This is the everyday grinding, writing curriculum, unpacking our essential standards, writing assessments. This is the hard work that has to be done to create curriculum alignment. So I'm going to talk about those first 4 plays first, and then I'm going to talk about the last 2 plays. The last 2 plays are really the leadership. For a lot of you that have been in any type of curriculum role for any substantial amount of time, you're probably already saying, hey, Amy, we already do plays 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's old news. We're already doing that. And so I would say, hey, congratulations, awesome job. This is what research says works when you're creating a curriculum alignment system. But if you're doing plays 1 through 4 and you're not seeing the results that you would expect to when you're following what research says works in regard to curriculum alignment, then I would say you might want to consider what type of leadership are you providing your administrators and instructional leaders in your district. So 2 things to think about as we walk through this presentation. Think about the work. What portions of plays 1 through 4 are you already doing? And which of those portions are you not doing and maybe you want to think about doing? If you're already doing plays 1 through 4, I might think about the leadership aspect. How are we coaching and enabling our instructional leaders across the district to have the capacity to be high performers? So let's go ahead and dive in. So I wanted to talk about what we learned in this journey. I was the Chief Curriculum and Instruction Officer in Rockwall ISD. I was in Rockwall for 5 years. And in Rockwall, we had 17,000 students. We had a curriculum and instruction team of 19 people. We had 26 campuses. And after 5 years of this system, Rockwall ISD earned an A, or a 94, which was the highest rating that we had ever received. So the plays that I'm talking about today are research-based. They have worked, and they were systems because we had 26 campuses. We had 16 elementaries, 3 middle schools, and 2 traditional high schools. And so the systems that we created had to be replicated on each campus and each classroom. But we had a very large curriculum team of 19 individuals. So then in 2021, when I went to become the superintendent of Bridgeport ISD, we only have 2,100 students at a curriculum team of 0, and we have 5 campuses. So I'm currently in year 2 of this system. And after year 1, I was able to hire 3 people on our curriculum and instruction team. So now we at least have 3 to help with high performance for our 5 campuses. After our first 2 years of work, we got our Texas Academic Performance Report, as you guys did in the fall. We went line by line, grade level by grade level, student group by student group, and went through our Texas Academic Performance Report. And I asked our principals, I said, I need you to identify every student group whose performance went up from the previous school year by 5 or more percentage points. And so we coach our principals on any data point that goes up or down by 5 percentage points is statistically significant. And so I'm not necessarily looking if we went up or down in any grade level or student group by 2 or by 3 or by 4. I'm looking for statistically significant data, which means we went up or down by 5 percentage points. So after 2 years of implementing the system, our 3rd and 4th graders really showed up with our emergent bilinguals going up double digits for 3rd grade math and for 3rd grade reading, and as well for 3rd grade math. Our 5th grade math team did an amazing job. Every student group went up by at least 5 percentage points. A lot of these are in the 20s and 30s. So our 5th grade math team really just knocked it out of the park. Our middle school is a little bit different in that they've traditionally always outperformed at the state average, but our 6th grade reading still went up in 4 of the 5 student groups that we have on that campus. Our 8th grade reading data went up by 5 or more percentage points for every single student group, and that was awesome to see for our middle school. Our 8th grade social studies data went up for every student group for all 3 performance thresholds: approaches, meets, and masters, and not by a little bit. As you can see, these numbers are quite substantial in how much we increased student performance from spring 2022 to spring 2023. English 1 and 2 did the same thing. We are very pleased that every single student group for English 1 and English 2 their performance went up by at least 5 percentage points for approaches, meets, or masters. And then the same thing for Algebra 1 and for biology. Each student group had one specific area where they at least went up by 5 or more percentage points. So I'm just showing you that data to say, when we're talking about the plays in the playbook, if they are done correctly, if they are executed and these plays are monitored and you have the leadership in your district to ensure that these plays are executed, you absolutely will see an increase for all of your student groups. So let's talk about play number 1. Play number 1 is that we write our own curriculum. This is absolutely not something that is new, but we have found that when our teachers are the ones that are writing the curriculum, they know our students best, they know the curriculum best, they know our community the best, and that we live in a very conservative community here in Bridgeport. And so our community very much likes to hear that our teachers that live in our community are the ones that are writing our curriculum. So let's talk about what that system looks like. Our system for curriculum writing, let me move my mouse, is that we use teachers from every campus, from every grade level. We facilitate curriculum writing 6 times a year. We pull curriculum writers twice in the fall, once in the spring, and 3 times over the summer months. In the summer months, we either give them flex hours, that the 12 flex hours or professional development education credits, whatever your district may call it. We will either give them their flex hours, or we pay them $200 a day to attend curriculum writing in the summer, knowing that you cannot have any type of childcare during the summer months if you aren't paid less than $100. So we pay them $200 a day, or we give them flex hour credits for that over the summer months. Otherwise, we do not pay them for their time in the fall. We do not pay them for their time in the spring because they come up to central office and write curriculum with us during the school day. Prior to the beginning of a school year, our curriculum team puts together a 1-pager of when curriculum writing will take place. All of our curriculum documents are housed in Eduphoria Forethought. We have one container. Everything is used in Forethought. Every curriculum document that I'm going to share with you today is housed in Eduphoria Forethought in the curriculum tree by grade level, by campus. And so this helps our teachers and our principals plan accordingly and go ahead and plan when they will have a good deal of teachers that are out at training. And so we appreciate that we put this together, but they, when they come together for curriculum writing, they're working on the unit overview document. And this is an example of our unit overview document. The last slide of this presentation, I have a QR code that takes you to a Google Drive where I have an example of a few unit overview documents, some for secondary and some for elementary, so that you can see some examples. When I worked with the curriculum team in Rockwell and the curriculum team here in Bridgeport, got the first, when we first started this work, our curriculum writers just said, give me a template, give me something to start with, give me something to model our work after, because I don't know what I'm doing. And so in order to expedite and accelerate the pace of the work, we have provided our curriculum writers with an example. And so now 2 years into that work, we have very healthy, robust unit overview documents for every grade level, every course. That includes PE, that includes fine arts, that includes languages other than English. Every course that we teach in our district is required to have curriculum documents and assessments that are all are housed in Eduphoria. So once our teachers are writing the curriculum, what was something else that we focused on? The second play that we focused on was identifying essential standards. And those of you that went through COVID as an instructional leader, possibly at the district level, know that one of the things that we were really coached on in the summer of 2020 was use your essential standards, use your essential standards, use your essential standards. And so in 2020, I was still in Rockwell. And at that point, when my superintendent called me and said, hey, we're closing school for the foreseeable future. You have 5 days to flip instruction online. I know we all have PTSD when we start talking about this. So what our team did, we got our curriculum and instruction team on a call and we said, hey, like, let's build lessons that are only based on the essential standards. We're not going to focus on every standard that is required for us to teach for the remainder of the year. Let's only focus on the essential standards. And so that's also how we worked on closing the achievement gaps post-COVID in Rockwall, was understanding, have a greater depth and specificity of how to teach the essential standards when and how to spiral them back into our curriculum. I think it was also helpful for our teachers that we put our essential standards on one page. So looking at these essential standards, you can see this is pre-kindergarten through 6th grade math standards, all on one document. We put this in forethought for teachers. And so when I go to any grade level, any course, I click on the middle school, I click on English language arts, I click on 6th grade reading language arts, and there's a folder that says unit overview document. There's a folder that says year at a glance. There's a folder that says essential standards. So any teacher on any campus or any administrator, instructional coach knows where all of our curriculum documents are housed in one curriculum tree in forethought. So this has been a very helpful system, and I gave you a few examples of some essential standards for different grade levels in the Google Drive that I'll give you access to at the end of the presentation. Since I've been doing all the talking, I want to give you a second to read this slide about what Kramer, what he says about essential standards. So while we're identifying essential standards, why don't you take a look at this quote, and then we'll come back in about 30 seconds after you've had a moment to read this. So when we talk about being respectful of people, and probably much like you, every year it seems that our turnover rate gets, never is declining. We constantly have teacher turnover. I think one of the important things to do is to be respectful of people. Let's narrow down what are the state standards that are the most important for a student to know and master before they move to the next grade level or course. And so when we hire a kindergarten teacher or a 3rd grade teacher or an Algebra 1 teacher, they're given a curriculum document and they are given essential standards. And so we'll say, hey, here are the 15 essential standards for Algebra 1. You and your teammates need to teach these standards with greater depth and greater specificity than any of the other standards. Are we required and will we teach all of the standards for Algebra 1? Absolutely. But will we create greater focus and greater collaboration and model for one another how to teach these essential standards? Absolutely. Because these are standards that we as teachers cannot mess up on during the first go round. All students have to have access to quality tier 1 instruction. And for that reason, we have created clarity and focus for our teachers by giving them a roadmap of saying, hey, the 78 standards that you have for 3rd grade math, we're going to teach all of them, but you're going to teach these 12 with greater depth and greater specificity and assess them all year long. So that creates focus for our teachers. And we've identified the essential standards for every grade level, for every course, for all of our 4 core content areas. Play number 3 is writing curriculum-based assessments. We write curriculum-based assessments for all of our STAR tested grade levels and content areas. We administer curriculum-based assessments once in the fall and once in the spring. Our fall CBAs are given the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. We just feel like that's fair to give our teachers that much time up until 2 weeks before Thanksgiving break to give their fall CBA. And then in the spring, we typically give our CBAs at the end of February or early March to assess where our students are for our middle of the year data. Our guidelines for our curriculum coordinators who create our curriculum-based assessments is that they can only be 12 to 21 questions long. The CBA can only assess essential standards that have already been taught in the curriculum, and it's designed to be administered in one instructional block. While we say that, I think our reading language arts teachers would argue a CBA can never be given in one 45-minute class period or one 90-minute instructional block. So I should probably put an asterisk next to that one. However, a curriculum-based assessment is very much treated like a STAR assessment in that teachers are not allowed to see it ahead of time. Our teachers are the ones that are building our curriculum. They're identifying our essential standards. They're writing their common formative assessments. But twice a year, a CBA is given very much like STAR in that no one other than the curriculum coordinator sees it ahead of time. However, I'll show you in a second, we write a curriculum-based assessment blueprint. So here's an example of our curriculum of a CBA blueprint. So 2 weeks before the CBA, we send out a CBA blueprint. So we list the number of questions that will be on the 3rd grade reading CBA. We tell teachers which essential standards will be assessed on the CBA. We tell them where that particular standard was taught within our pacing calendar, and then the genre of test, if it's literacy, informational, revising, and editing, and the frequency of how often each of those standards has been assessed over the last few years on STAR. So depending on the campus, some of our teachers would get this blueprint 2 weeks ahead of time and would start doing test prep with their students on these particular standards. It was quite funny. Sometimes when I was in a larger district, I would have some principals that would say, hey, my neighboring elementary school is test prepping their students for the CBA. And I would say, well, if we're assessing students on the most frequently assessed standards, then I don't really care if they're test prepping on these standards. These are the standards that our students have to master in order to be adequately prepared for the next grade level of course. So go ahead, test prep all the way. That's perfectly fine as long as you're using a district vetted resource in order to do that test prep. I'm perfectly fine with that. We're pretty picky about which type of instructional materials we allow our teachers to use. All right, to give you a second to breathe and to think, let's talk about what this quote talks about in regard to curriculum-based assessments. Read this for me, and then I'll start back up in 30 seconds. So while our teachers are building their unit assessments, their common formative assessments, all of which are in Eduphoria, our teachers are required to build those assessments in Eduphoria, analyze the assessments in Eduphoria, put the test results in Eduphoria. So again, Eduphoria is the one-stop shop for everything instruction and assessment. While they do that, our curriculum writers are the ones that are writing the CBA, just so that we can gain an understanding of how much progress are our students by course, by grade level, making toward mastering those essential standards. So in the fall, our principals and teachers were quite disappointed because their results were not great. And so what I had to go back to the PLCs and the principals and say, guys, we're assessing our students on STAR. Really, they are released STAR questions from previous released STAR tests that we put on our CBAs. Our students should not be knocking it out of the park in November. Like all this was a quick, might I say, kind of shock to the system, because all along in September, October, November, my 3rd grade unit assessment data has been great. My kids are rocking it. And all of a sudden they take a CBA and my kids are scoring in the 30, 40, 50 percentile. That's a quick wake up call for the teacher to go, crap, we have a lot more work and a lot more growth to do in reading or in math than I thought we did. So I think the CBAs, if done correctly, are very helpful. One of the other things that we provide our teachers is just a quick FAQ document on what is the difference between a campus common assessment or a unit assessment and a district curriculum-based assessment. And then we provided the evidence or the research of what Dufour and Eaker would say is the difference in a CBA and a campus common assessment. When and what grades or content areas are tested. We only do CBAs for STAR tested areas, although in the spring, our elementary principals have advocated for their 2nd graders to be able to take a CBA. So during STAR, when 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are taking STAR in the spring, our 2nd graders will take a reading and a math CBA as well. Our stance has always been that we do not give CBAs for a grade. A CBA is a quick glimpse into how effective is our district written, teacher written curriculum. So it is not something that students necessarily need to go home and prep for. It is not something that we want our teachers necessarily to always stop, drop, and roll, but we just don't feel that it's fair to give a grade for something that is not necessarily intended to gauge a student's mastery of answering questions that are really our students should be prepared for at the end of the year, not in the middle of the year. So that's always been our stance on not taking a CBA for a grade. One of the things that we talked about this fall, we created this slide because our teachers and our principals were really getting kind of confused on what's the difference between a unit assessment and a curriculum-based assessment. Again, it wasn't what does Amy think a curriculum-based assessment is. It wasn't what does my principal think a curriculum-based assessment is and a unit assessment is. We used research to say, hey, here's the difference, and here's why we as a district want to utilize two different type of assessments in Bridgeport ISD. Play number 4, writing unit assessments for all 4 core content areas. So this quote says that high growth schools and districts use frequent, common, short cycle assessments at least every 3 to 6 weeks. Teachers create formative assessments before developing their lessons for a unit and clarify success criteria. The importance of focusing the attention of teachers on formative assessment practices and developing and using short cycle common assessments was one of the most consistent findings of the study. This kind of goes back to the leadership aspect of making sure that you as the curriculum leader on your campus, or you as the curriculum leader in your district, that we're not just providing our instructional leaders with our opinions or our thoughts, or you will give a CBA, you will give a common assessment, you will write the curriculum. I always prefer to go back to what research says works. And so when I'm coaching our teachers, when I'm coaching our principals, I always try to go back to what does research say the rationale is for using unit assessments. So one of the things that we've done over the last few years is make sure that for every content area, for every grade level, there are common assessments used in every classroom. One of the things that we're doing by writing our own curriculum and providing and writing our own assessments is that we're doing what I heard, if you've ever attended Solution Trees training, you would hear Mike Matos, or we used to hear Rick and Becky DeFore say, we are eliminating the educational lottery system by ensuring that no matter which teacher your child is assigned in our district, we will promise you that they will have access to the same curriculum standards, the same instructional strategies, the same assessments. So it doesn't matter which teacher your child gets, they will have equity no matter which classroom they are placed in. And so when I continue to reinforce that to our teachers and staff, they really start to buy into why we have such tight structures for curriculum and assessment in Bridgeport ISD. So let's take a quick stop. I've talked to you about our 4 key plays, which is really the hard work that takes a lot of time. We write our own curriculum, we identify our essential standards, we write curriculum-based assessments, which are very different from a unit assessment, and then we write unit assessments for all of the courses in the 4 core areas. I'm going to stop for 2 seconds before we go on to the leadership part. What are some questions that you have about those first 4 plays? Anything that sticks out to you? Any comments that you have that you want to put in the chat? What are your thoughts, reflections, or questions just based off of those 4 specific strategies or systems?
Dr. Ellis, while we wait for comments and questions to come in, I had one myself.
Go for it.
You mentioned that the essential standards should really be the focus, correct? When it comes to that, is it fair enough to say that they should just be the readiness standards, or should they be even more focused than that?
It should be more focused than that. We have several, sometimes it's for science, particularly it's processing standards that are identified as our essential standards. Sometimes it's the supporting standard. It's not always necessarily the readiness standards. And so I've been asked that question before. Well, the state already divides up those standards for us based on priority. Well, not necessarily. I prefer our teachers to identify those essential standards themselves, which for us was like for reading language arts, for instance, we had every teacher at grades pre-K through 12 that taught reading in the same room for 2 days. And they identified pre-K through 12 what our essential standards were. And no, they were not always readiness standards. And so that's a big eye opener when there's a lot more learning to do other than just identifying what is a readiness standard or not. I think it's a lot deeper than that once you start to unpack standards K through 12.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to keep typing some things. Jessica Cook asks, Do the teachers or the team for each core subject write their own unit assessments, or does the curriculum coordinator write that unit assessment? I assume it's the teacher, but just double checking.
Yes, because we are a small district, we have 6 pre-K, first, second, and third grade teachers. And then fourth and fifth, I might only have 2 teachers that teach reading, 2 teachers that teach science. So at the elementary level, every teacher is on the curriculum writing team for some form or fashion. So yes, when we pull teachers for curriculum writing, they are in charge of writing the assessment for each unit. And so if they get behind, we might pull them in an extra day. The curriculum coordinator only writes the curriculum-based assessments. Absolutely, during curriculum writing days, if a teacher is behind, the curriculum coordinator will hop in and help assist with writing the assessment. But the teachers on the curriculum writing team specifically are the ones that are charged with writing the unit assessments. We do not ask a teacher who is not on the curriculum writing team to write the assessments. We just feel like that curriculum writer knows the standards best. And he or she is someone that has proven results in the classroom. And so he or she is responsible for creating that assessment on behalf of her teammates.
And as a quick follow-up, as a quick follow-up, and then I'll let you continue with your presentation. Are there guidelines and expectations for those unit assessments as they're writing them?
We still attempt to keep them short. 12 to 21 questions is still are designed to be given in one instructional block, is still the guidelines that we give the teacher. Other than that, we try to pay close attention to the essential standards, but also some standards that may spiral in the remainder of the year. But other than that, that's are really the only guidelines that we give them for writing the assessments.
Excellent.
All right, guys. Well, I'll let Jeremy continue to monitor the chat. I just wanted to do a quick check-in before we do our last 2 plays, which is the leadership part. You're very welcome, Jessica. I have seen, I'm trying to figure out how to word this correctly. When I talk about curriculum leaders at the campus level or the district level, a lot of curriculum leaders are already doing plays 1 through 4. And they don't understand why they're not getting the results that they desire. And when I start questioning or pushing in a little bit, I start to find that it's the leadership that's missing. And so I really want to talk to you about what that leadership looks like, either as a campus leader or a district leader, to make sure that all of the work that's being done to build curriculum and assessments is actually managed, executed, and monitored. So let's talk about what that looks like together. So play number 5 is creating focus and clarity. When we talk about lean management, we talk about being respectful of people. We believe that providing teachers with focus and clarity of what to teach, when to teach, is one of the most important things that we can do. A lot, if not all of the how a teacher executes the curriculum is up to the professional learning community. It's up to the collaborative team. Our team of 6 second grade teachers have the autonomy to determine how they are going to execute the standards, how they are going to deliver the instruction. That's where our teachers are uber talented, is that they have the autonomy to plan the instruction. We're just providing them with the curriculum and the assessments provided by the curriculum team. So one of the things that we talk to our teachers about every time we have them in front of us at a faculty meeting or at a whole district meeting is we talk about what a guaranteed and viable curriculum means. And we feel that we're not super big on, hey, our initiative this year is reading, language arts, and phonics, or our initiative this year is algebraic reasoning, or our initiative this year is PBIS. Like we set goals and we set SMART goals, but to keep it simple and be respectful of people that are just trying to figure it out when they're working 50 hours a week, if that, to keep up with the demand, we want to keep it simple, and keeping it simple from a 0-year teacher that's brand new to the profession or a veteran teacher that's been teaching for years. We say our goal is to provide a guaranteed and viable curriculum with supports to ensure relevant quality instruction for all. And so I say, hey team, let's talk about what a guaranteed and viable curriculum means. So when we talk about a guaranteed and viable curriculum, DeFore would define a guaranteed and viable curriculum as ensuring that a student has the opportunity to learn to have access to the state standards and actually learns them. So it's eliminating the educational lottery system that we spoke about earlier, that it's ensuring that students have equal access to the curriculum and the state standards, no matter which teacher they are assigned. So knowing that a guaranteed and viable curriculum is our goal, we also coach our teachers on the curriculum alignment triangle. So Fenwick English, the guru and creator of what is known as curriculum, designed a curriculum alignment triangle where the written, the taught, and the tested curriculum are all aligned. But the QC in the middle of that triangle, quality control, anything the system, and as an elementary campus, as a middle school campus, as a high school campus, you are a system. So our job as instructional leaders is to implement, monitor, and execute quality control. Anything you as a system do to eliminate random variation coming out of your system. And so I say, hey, teachers, the lower left-hand side of the triangle, the taught, you are 1/3 of the quality control triangle. So if what you are teaching is not aligned to the written curriculum, the top of the triangle, and is not aligned to the right part of the triangle, the tested, what's going to happen when 1/3 of that triangle is not aligned? There is no way we will get the student achievement that we expect from our students every year when the quality control triangle or the curriculum alignment triangle is not aligned. Teachers, you are 1/3 of this triangle. You have to follow the written curriculum because that curriculum is automatically aligned with the assessed curriculum. The written, the taught, and the tested curriculum must be aligned to have tight quality control. I probably have talked over and shown this visual to all 350 employees, no joke, probably 6 times over the last 2 years, because it is so critical for every teacher in our system to understand when we're asking you to utilize the assessment, when we're asking you to put that assessment in Edifori, when we're asking you to build the curriculum and put it into the curriculum tree, it is because you are part of a system and we have to have tight quality control in order to gain the results that we desire. Another thing that we learned is that in ensuring that all instructional leaders are growing at the same pace. This was really important when I was in Rockwall with 17,000 students and 26 campuses. It was incredibly important that as an instructional leader, I built, executed, and monitored systems. And so the best way for me to do that would be week 1 of January, I would meet with principals. I would talk with them for probably 30-45 minutes about curriculum and instruction practices and strategies. The following week, I would do the exact same presentation, the exact same teach lesson with the assistant principals. And then the following Friday, I would do the exact same lesson with our instructional coaches. We had about 21 instructional coaches, probably 40 assistant principals, and 26 principals. So that many instructional leaders every month for 5 years were getting the same knowledge, wisdom, and coaching on best practices. What does research say works? All 3 of those groups were getting the same coaching every single month. And so our results just skyrocketed to a 94, which was the highest rating we'd ever achieved, because everyone was learning at the same pace. It wasn't, we send the principal to central office and they get a 45-minute pep talk on CNI, and then the principal never disseminates that information to the APs. The AP never disseminates that information to the coach never disseminates that information to the teachers. It's organizational waste. Again, we're talking about lean management. We're adding value to a system, but we're eliminating waste. How do we as an instructional leaders ensure everyone is moving and learning at the same pace? Another thing that we do is we meet with our principals to review their beginning of year, middle of year, and their end of year, their BOI, MOI, and EOI. We review their data with them as a cabinet team 3 times a year. And so we're in the middle of having our middle of year meetings this week with each of our 5 principals. And so what we do at that meeting is we discuss every single staff member on their campus. Our director of HR comes to these meetings, and we as a cabinet team, the principal and myself, lay an eye on every single employee on that campus. And we talk about, are they doing well? Are there some areas for growth? Are they going to make the cut? Are we recommending them to come back next year? Or do they have a positive attitude? Do they have a growth mindset? Those are really conversations that we have. But then we look at their assessment results. We look at their unit assessment data. We look at their CBA data. We see if there's any correlation. We see how tightly aligned or not aligned their assessment data is by teacher. And then I can come pretty strong when that data is not aligned between teachers of the same grade level or course, but it's good coaching that our principals, I think, appreciate. We identify which teachers are struggling. Our director of C&I is in these meetings as well. And so when a principal says, hey, like this teacher is just really struggling, our director of C&I says, hey, that's great. Thanks for letting me know. We'll get over there and make sure that we're in their collaborative team time, or that we're providing them individual coaching. And then I always in that conversation with, okay, campus principal, what can we do as a district leadership team to support you? You have the most difficult job in the district. We work for you. What is it that you need to continue to be successful? And those meetings go over very well because we make it about the principal, we make it about their campus, we make it about them and their needs, and that goes over very well. But that takes a lot of focus and energy on behalf of the principal and the cabinet to come together 3 times a year and identify what's going well and not going well on each of our campuses. And then every other week we meet with principals and assistant principals, so we switch them off. We begin each principal meeting with collaborative classroom walks. Our cabinet team, our curriculum and instruction team, our instructional coaches, we all walk through classrooms together. We break up into 2 small groups. Our curriculum and instruction team already has a schedule picked out. Here are the 5 classrooms that we're going to walk through in the next 30 minutes. We step out into the hallway after each classroom. We discuss what we saw, what we didn't see, what could be improved, or we give each other high fives. This campus is rocking it. This grade level is rocking it. We go back to our principal meeting. Our curriculum coordinators print out the most recent unit assessment data that happened on each of our campuses that week for the STAR tested grade levels for grades 3 through 8. That's an opportunity for the curriculum coordinator and the principal to sit down and look at their unit assessment data. I was a little bit naive, probably 7 years ago, saying, no, it's okay. The principals are looking at their data. It's the principal's responsibility to stop and look at their data. I don't know if you're super attuned to what a principal does every day, but if I, as the superintendent, am responsible for moving the needle in regard to curriculum and instruction, and we can do anything to alleviate some of the to-do list or the pressure that a principal has, we sure as heck are going to print off assessment data for those principals, and at least every other week print it out for them, show it to them, talk to them about, hey, I just printed your 8th grade math data. What do you think? Is there something that we can do differently? It's a discussion between the curriculum coordinator and the principal. 75% of our agenda or time at principal meetings is dedicated to curriculum and instruction. We tell our cabinet members, hey, you are important, but student growth is our #1 priority. So the rest of you, we absolutely want you to be present and visible at our principal meetings, but curriculum and instruction should be the #1 focus. Our curriculum and instruction team also provides a monthly curriculum and instruction newsletter that keeps them just aware of the 8,000 things that are going on in the world of curriculum and instruction, but it's one place to find all their curriculum and instruction information, training, and news coming from the curriculum department. The principals are also required to present their beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year data to the Board of Trustees. That's easy because we're a small district. When I was in Rockwall, obviously with 26 principals, we did not have the ability to have all 26 of them present to the Board of Trustees. So what we did in Rockwall is that for our 16 elementaries, we broke them into small groups of 3 or 5 elementaries, and they would present their beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year data to that small group of principals with the curriculum team and with the 2 chief academic officers, so that everyone was present. Our 3 middle school principals presented their beginning, middle, and end of year data to one another at the middle of the year. Same for our high school. Our 2 high school principals, their associate principals, curriculum and instruction, the chief academic officers would all come together and be present for all of those beginning, middle, and end of year data meetings, because principals need a PLC of their own. They need to be able to present, talk, collaborate, and get feedback from their peers. And so in a larger group, my suggestion and from what we've done in the past was just to break them up into small groups and then present their data to one another and then be open for feedback. Another thing that we do is, we are data driven, we are numbers driven. And so every other week when our principals and assistant principals come to their AP meeting or their principal meeting, we congratulate them on how many times they have been in classrooms, how many times they've provided positive feedback to their teachers. They set their walkthrough goals at the beginning of the year. We say, hey, principals, how many walkthroughs do you guys want to set to have weekly? And I think this year they said we can do 7 to 10 a week. And so we put their numbers up there, not that we want them to be competitive, but we want them to be a little bit competitive. But we also want them to know that we prioritize your time as a principal needs to be spent in the classroom to the degree possible. And so we have some amazing principals that just really rock it out. So those were just some quick tips and tricks, maybe some reflections for you to think about. Hey, what part of the work plays 1, 2, 3, and 4? Writing the curriculum, identifying the essential standards, writing your CBAs, or writing unit assessments. Which of those are you already doing, and which of those systems are working well or not working well if you're already doing them? Which one of those do you think your district is ready to start? Or plays 5 and 6, maybe it's the leadership part. Maybe you have plays 1 through 4 already done in your district, but the leadership might be something that you as a campus leader or you as a district leader might need to put a little bit more focus and emphasis on. So with that being said, guys, thanks so much for being willing to listen about some systems for high performing schools. At this time, I'll turn it over to Jeremy for any questions or comments that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Melissa asks, what resources do the curriculum writers actually utilize to create their unit assessments?
So Eduphoria has been really wonderful in that we have purchased every item bank that Eduphoria has. So I've adjusted our instructional materials and Title I budget to accommodate for every item bank that we need. And so, Jeremy, I think we have 4 or 5 different item banks. We buy them all. I never want a teacher to say they don't have enough items or they don't have enough item banks to pull from. And so we just buy every item bank that's available in Eduphoria.
That's amazing. I'll use that as an opportunity to say, if you'd like to look at some of the item banks, shoot an email to sales@eduphoria.net or shoot an email to your account manager. We have another one. How would you start the playbook cycle if you were to actually begin this? If a school does not have this level of organization yet, what would you recommend? How would you begin?
So a few things. We started with we kind of did it backwards. If I had to do it again, I would probably do curriculum writing first. Common assessments are pretty darn critical, and that can be done in the curriculum writing process. But in year 1, I would want to start on the curriculum writing process. I would want to identify essential standards, which means I would give my curriculum team or curriculum writers, I'd say, hey, you have 12 months to write curriculum for every unit. For the 4 core content areas, just start with the core. Start with your STAR tested grade levels, grades 3 through 8. If you can't do that, do STAR tested grade levels, grades 3 through 8 in reading and math. Why reading and math? Because those are our growth. Those are where we get our growth points. So reading and math is a priority. If you don't have the time, don't have the people, which it doesn't matter what size district I've been in. I've said, hey, I'm not asking if you have the time. I'm saying it's going to be done. So let's figure it out. Start with curriculum writing while you identify your essential standards. Assessments can come, but if you don't even know what your curriculum is and what your essential standards are, it'd be really hard to develop those common assessments. So if I were starting over brand new, which I've had to do and did here, we did curriculum writing and essential standards first. And then the second phase was common assessments for unit assessments and CBAs.
Excellent. I have one more. You mentioned during Play 2 that teachers should have lessons on the essential standards modeled for them. How do you actually go about doing that?
The teachers do it. So sometimes it's been, okay, so I have 6 second grade teachers. I have some veterans and I have some non-veterans. So what I tell the elementary principal is, hey, you take that veteran teacher who has taught standard 4B for the last 30 years. Have her model in collaborative team time, have her model how she teaches standard 3A for her students, because I have 4 rookie teachers that are working with her that have no clue how to teach this. So whoever your rock star veteran teacher is on that campus, how do you teach this standard? Your data has historically been really good. Can you be prepared to model for our teachers what that looks like? If you don't have a veteran teacher on that team, do you have an instructional coach that can come in and model that for you? Our director of CNI has gone over to the 6th grade reading language arts collaborative team time and modeled for teachers how to do guided reading. So who is an expert in that field, that grade level, that core content area that can model, because you're only going to teach an essential standard, maybe 2 or 3 essential standards per unit. So you have plenty of time to identify who is the best person on this campus or in the district to model that specific strategy. Now, with that being said, and you guys are going to have my email on the next slide when I go to that one. We also, also part of my playbook is a list of about 12 amazing consultants that have helped get this work completed in 2 years. I don't want you to think that we're some type of magic workers over here that are just, we work 60, 70 hours a week. We don't. I have a very long list of people that I have hired to come in and help get this work done. So if for some reason you want to email me, I would be glad to share that list with you. Do we print curriculum documents or just load PDFs into Forethought? Okay, so here's something, Kayla, that's kind of interesting, and it might not be the right answer, but this is my answer. We don't print the curriculum documents. They are all hyperlinked in Google onto the unit overview documents that are in Eduphoria. That curriculum document or that unit overview may change. And so we encourage, I did this in Rockwell, I did it here in Bridgeport. We encourage the teachers not to, they still do it, but we still encourage them, hey, don't print that unit overview document out, or don't print the unit overview documents for the entire year. Those will always change. Because what happens when we give our November CBA, our data is not as great as we thought it was going to be. And so we adjust our unit overview documents for the spring semester. So we do upload PDFs into Forethought, but it's a Google link to a Google Drive. Our teachers don't share lessons. How do teachers share lessons? I don't require them to turn in lesson plans. I don't require them to write lesson plans. I say, you need to know the curriculum. My number one focus for you is that you know your curriculum, you know the standards, and you know how to teach it. I'm not concerned with you spending 45 minutes a week or a day planning a lesson on a specific lesson plan template. I don't know why. Just the emphasis on curriculum seems to have served us a lot better, and not focusing on lesson plans. It is the responsibility of the collaborative team when they come together to discuss what instructional practices they're going to use. But otherwise, when we walk into a collaborative team time or a PLC, we expect to see the unit overview and the assessment up on their computer, up on the screen, because they should be using that to plan for executing the curriculum. We don't require lesson plans. They don't have to turn them in. I'm like, hey, you just need to know the curriculum, the standards, and the assessment. I'm not super concerned about you spending time turning in a lesson plan just to do something to check off a box. Like, I'm going to look at your data to know whether you're planning appropriately or not. I don't really need to see a lesson plan. That may not have been the best answer, but that's what I'm thinking.
Dr. Ellis, this has been, please, if you have another thought.
Thank you for explaining your how, and do y'all use TEKS resource system? Yes, we do use TEKS resource system because number one, we primarily like their item bank the most. It is super helpful. Number two, if you have teachers that are just beginning the curriculum writing process, it is an amazing template for them to see how to organize their information. So I could not go without TEKS resource system, even though we write our own curriculum. Yes, it is expensive. It is a must, especially if you don't have curriculum writers, or if you're starting the curriculum writing journey. I have to have that, because otherwise our teachers really are pretty lost without a template.
Beautiful. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. Dr. Ellis, I really want to thank you once again for joining us and being our guest host. You've done a phenomenal job. Ladies and gents, feel free to drop an emoji, some applause, some thank yous in the chat. We really appreciate her taking the time out of her extremely busy schedule so that she could speak to all of us today. Dr. Ellis, if you would, please continue on to the next couple of slides, and we'll have Armando close us out.
Like Jeremy said, thank you, Dr. Ellis, for sharing these valuable insights and strategies from your playbook. All of this information is extremely valuable, and rest assured that you will receive a copy of this presentation via email once today's recording has been processed. If you need additional assistance on this or other Eduphoria topics, please email training@eduphoria.net. And calling all educators, we want to remind you to visit our teacher learning site for Aware and Strive at teachers.eduphoria.net. We have created modules that consist of video and text learning resources and supports, in addition to knowledge checks and discussion prompts. The video content length ranges from a couple of minutes to about 6 minutes, where the classroom leader can get topic-specific demonstrations on utilizing Aware and Strive. And last, Dr. Ellis, thank you once again for being here and being our esteemed guest. And thank you, Jeremy, for hosting. On behalf of today's team and all of Eduphoria, we would like to thank you for joining us on today's webinar over implementing systems for high-performing schools. Have a great day.